Right, hi guys, welcome back to VCC Homes' weekly news update. We are trying to get back into the swing of things again now that we're a lot less busy because the last few months have been super busy. Yeah, we've been majorly filling rooms and had a lot of activity in that respect, bringing on 3 new HMOs, which was a total of 18 rooms. And I think at that sort of time we had around 10 rooms available, so it was like nearly 30 rooms. We now currently have 85 HMO rooms, and we've got 3 rooms available. So we're doing pretty well, and we have done pretty well. We've been filling and working hard, getting people doing viewings, selling rooms and all that good stuff, and also ensuring, you know, everyone gets on in each house, etc, etc. So yeah, it's been tiring, feeling a little bit burnt out, but yeah, really happy with that actually during this time. Yeah, we've got 7 new rooms coming before the end of the year. I think 2 very, very soon. Planning's just been granted for an 8-bed HMO that we did, so those rooms should be going live soon, and then another 5-bed HMO towards the end of the year. We've also got 6 houses, like buy-to-let units as well. So with just that in the pipeline, we'll have a total of 98 units by the end of the year. Our target is to get to 100 units, so yeah, we're pushing. So we're trying to do a bit more marketing for you guys, and also trying to bring you more stuff that is interesting and relevant. So yeah, I had a call with an investor, I think it was Saturday, and he asked me the question, is now a good time to buy? Personally, I think no, and we've agreed we're going to wait until maybe January, February next year. Even though we've got a good occupancy rate, a very good occupancy rate of our current HMO rooms, I think the market is a bit volatile. And personally, I think towards the end of this month, when furlough runs out, leading up to Christmas, and what with all the inflation and printed money and quantitative easing the government have been doing, I don't think we're feeling the effects of the lockdown just been, and will there be further lockdowns, etc, etc. So I think it could get rough moving forward, so we'll just see. So I wouldn't advise buying now. I also think there's that sort of hyperinflated prices of houses at the moment. I personally think, yeah, houses are going for silly money. So if you've got the cash, I'd sit on it personally. But I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that, so please make your own mind up. A couple more things. We are working on a void spreadsheet for all of our HMOs, so maybe next week I will be able to tell you some more information about the data on our void rates and stuff on our managed portfolio. What else are we doing? Oh, average room rents. Today I sort of thought, I wonder what our average room rent is. I know we've got some rooms that are £800 a month, £750, that sort of bracket, all the way down to the sort of £500–600 mark. So it'd be interesting to see what is our average across those 85 rooms. But because today we're running out of time, I've got to go pretty soon. Alicia's just been on a webinar, and I'm going to pass over the camera to her, and I'm going to let her explain what that was all about and to talk about it. And then that'll wrap up this week's little weekly update. We've been working hard behind the scenes, doing maintenance, getting on top of maintenance and stuff like that, gardening, cleaning. So we're actually in a really good spot in that respect. So now, I think as of next week, I'm going to start. I've got a million things to do. I'm going to really organise my list, get Mel to help me out, and stuff like that. And we'll probably have to do a post about this, because I don't think we've actually officially announced it, but Mel is obviously working with us now full time. She's my sister, and is the portfolio manager, so runs the portfolio at the moment, does everything behind the computer screen, and has been doing training, doing really well, getting into the swing of things. So we'll do another post on that another time, or an official post. But yeah, let me hand you over to Alicia.
Yeah, so just before I say about the webinar I was on, just going back to what Ollie said about whether it's the time to buy. Someone that I know had some stats from Rightmove. I don't know how true these are, but you know, it's not my person I got them from is not credible person. So he was basically saying that Rightmove have now put out information that on their website there are more sold properties than there are for sale, and that has never happened before. There's always been more for sale properties, and it is true. I mean, when I've been sort of driving around, pretty much everything that's got a board is sold, or the ones that you look that are for sale. If you then look at them on the thing, there's sale agreed or whatever. So yeah, if you are needing to sell a property, now would definitely be the time to sell. But yeah, I mean, as Ollie said, we're not financial advisors, but we personally are holding off buying anything at the moment, unless it's a really good deal that, you know, has got something different to it, as such. But yeah, anyway, going to the webinar that I logged into today. So there was quite a few different people from different organisations. It was run by the IOD, so that's the Institute of Directors. Some of the people that were on the call were Henry Smith, which is the MP for Crawley, and Stuart Wingate, who is the CEO at Gatwick, I think. So just a couple of things that people were saying. So they were all in agreement that things will get better. I mean, that's nice to hear. And they will get better in the short term. However, short term is sort of like 4 or 5 years. So that doesn't feel very short time potentially. But they were saying that historically the aviation industry has always bounced back, and not only bounced back, but it's always continued to grow beyond what it was before. So if you think back to the recession, also 9/11, disasters like that always sort of affect the aviation industry. You know, people are scared and things. But they were saying it always bounces back. People always want to go on holiday. People always want to travel. And one of the questions from the audience in this webinar was, what about business travel? Seeing as Zoom calls have become so utilised in lockdown and things, and a lot of people are now moving across to that. And I think it was Stuart Wingate from Gatwick who said, at the end of the day, business is done person to person. So although some things might be, you might sort of switch across to like a Zoom call, actually when you're doing business with someone, say your competitor is willing to fly to Beijing to meet with the other company that, you know, the deal is with, and meet them in person, then of course you're also going to do the same, because that would give the other company the competitive edge if you're not willing to also travel. So he said, it might have a marginal effect, but on the whole, business travel will bounce back. But him and pretty much everyone else were saying that the biggest factor to what's affecting the aviation industry at the moment is the quarantine. So the 14-day quarantine, that when people come to this country they have to quarantine for 14 days, is just really like decimating it. So they are pushing for, at the moment, to have testing done for people who are arriving in this country, have testing done, I suppose, on arrival. And obviously the turnaround of the tests can be quite quick. And if at that point the person whose test comes back negative can then go out and don't have to do the 14-day quarantine, then, you know, that basically opens us up. And they were saying that other countries are already putting this in place, and if the UK doesn't follow suit, then it puts us at a competitive disadvantage. So they're really pushing government to, I suppose, fund these testings or allow these testings. So yeah, they're really pushing that. There was also something else that they're saying that the government have done that's really not helping matters, which is that they've raised the VAT on duty-free items, raised taxation on them. The idea being is that they're trying to make the high street prices more competitive. However, what these guys were seem to be saying is that they've kind of missed the point that a lot of people come to the UK from other places to buy luxury items in the duty free, and if you're going to raise that, then actually some of that appeal is no longer there, when you should really be, you know, encouraging people or be appealing as you can be for people to pick travel to the UK as opposed to some of the other places that they could go to. So they're also trying to, you know, get government to retract that, or at least mitigate it. So Stuart Wingate, like I said, he was CEO of Gatwick, and he was saying that obviously before COVID they had big plans for Gatwick. They were hoping that 2020 would have been the year that they saw 50 million visitors through Gatwick's doors, which would have been a first for them. Obviously that hasn't happened. But they are hoping that, obviously with the second runway, that they are still pushing and they're still wanting to do that. And obviously there's the whole fight between Heathrow and Gatwick. Heathrow seem to have sort of their third runway. I think they were saying something like the application is dead or something like that. So they are really hoping that Gatwick will get their runway, and they are definitely planning for it. They said that it makes sense because Gatwick has bought up all of its land. It doesn't need to, throw people off land like they do in Heathrow and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, when that does happen, hopefully by 2030 they will be seeing 70 million people come through Gatwick, 70 million passengers. So that is huge. I mean, that's, from what they're saying, that's nearly twice as many people coming through their doors. So in terms of effect on businesses around and the economy around, the local economy around it, that would be great, especially for people like us who are housing people. Obviously, if there's almost double the amount of workforce needed, then they're going to need to live somewhere. So we'd be well placed for providing housing for people like that. However, jumping back to present day, another guy who spoke, he was from Coast Capital, which is an organisation, I think, that is sort of trying to promote growth in our area. And obviously Coast Capital is like obviously the coast, so Brighton and Hove and Chichester, all that sort of area, all the way up to sort of Croydon, Epsom. He was sort of saying even before COVID, they've been looking at how to improve the area. They were saying that obviously we are one of the worst hit areas in the country, and we are the worst hit area in the southeast in terms of effects from COVID. They were also saying that they've identified that we've got quite a large gap in the workforce of 20 to 30-year-olds, and they were saying that obviously that's quite bad for the labour market because that's kind of like your new lot coming in. And the reason why they think that is because we're obviously quite expensive, housing is quite expensive, and so we're almost pricing ourselves out of the labour market. Obviously we've also got quite a service-based economy here. There's lots of hospitality, leisure, all them sorts of experience type industries. And so what they are hoping is that they are trying to appeal to other companies that are more sort of manufacturing based but also high skilled, so it attracts the 20 to 30-year-olds, the people who've come out of university, want a high skilled job, that they would then be wanting to come to sort of areas like Crawley if those big tech based manufacturing companies are here. And we've also got quite an entrepreneurial economy here as well. So if we can build on that, then it again appeals to the younger sort of market. But also one of the other things he said is that if we're going to have to be adapting the industries that congregate around Crawley, is that obviously people that have done one type of job before, if there's new companies coming in with different types of skills needed, that actually the local workforce are going to have they're going to have to sort of develop new skills, so this company, Coast Capital, are looking at how they actually facilitate that and how they allow or enable the workforce to have access to like a skills action plan to develop different sort of skills for themselves. What else was it? Yeah, I mean, another lady she was from the IOD, she was talking about obviously it is within the government's interest to keep as many people in work, and that's not just specific to Crawley and our areas, that's across the board. And she was sort of talking about how really what the government, if the government want businesses to keep the workforce employed, then what they need to be doing is supporting businesses by making it cheaper to employ people. Now that's not meaning to, bring down the national minimum wage, like anything like that. It's more to do with things like taxation and national insurance and all them sorts of contributions that businesses have to make to employ people, to make them sorts of things cheaper. So yeah, I mean, it was quite an interesting conversation, quite a good sort of insight into what things are being done. I'd say probably the focus was obviously, what's happening now, and what people are trying to do about it. But I would say that there was quite a positive spin on the future. Okay, the future might be a bit further down the line. However, they were saying that they're positive that the aviation industry will bounce back and things will be better than ever before. In fact, the Coast Capital company, they were saying that their whole ethos is building sustainability into our growth. So I think they said it was their tagline or whatever is building a stronger, smarter and greener economy. So they're hoping to be sustainable, stronger, incorporating all of that into the growth of our area. So yeah, it's encouraging to know that people aren't just going digging their head in the sand and not doing anything about it, and there's plenty of people that are fighting our corner. But one thing that which I've got to say, because Henry Smith, the MP, he said obviously he is going to government and saying all these things to government, but it really helps when businesses also back him up in what he's saying and say, yep, we are finding this effect, but if this were to change, i.e. the the testing at Gatwick, visitors coming and testing for COVID and therefore shortening the quarantine time, if businesses also back him up and say, yes, this is actually, this would really help us and XYZ, then it's not just one man shouting for Crawley, it's a whole army basically. So yeah, it was a good talk. If they do any more, I will definitely tune in, because yeah, it was positive and encouraging. And yeah, I suppose we've just got to batten down the hatches a little bit for the short term, but hopefully we'll sort of come out stronger. So as cliche as that sounds, but yeah, I hope that was useful. If anyone wanted to I think they do like a like you can go back and listen to the webinar, I think. So if anyone was interested, it was on the IOD website, so that's the Institute of Directors. You could also find it on the Gatwick Diamond Business website, so go and check them out. It was free as well, if anyone was wondering. But yeah, anyway, it is Friday, so have a lovely weekend and we will see you next week. Bye!